Hi, welcome to the HR Happy Hour Work Break. You are here with Trish and not Steve Bowes. You are here with Geoff Webb from iSolve. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm definitely not Steve Bowes.
You are not. Actually, it's you and Sam. We have to say here, we are at the iSolve Roadshow.
Yep.
This is my second one. It's amazing. This is so fun.
They are fun, and it's really nice that you came back for two because obviously we did it right the first time.
You did it right the first time. So for anyone listening, why don't you give them maybe just a minute or so of what the roadshow is all about, what you're doing, and how many you're doing, because you're on the road quite a bit.
Quite a bit, yes. So what we're doing is we're traveling around the country, going to where our customers are. So we're doing these roadshows. We have about 51 currently slated. That number continues to go up. Primarily because they're going really well. And so what we do is we invite our customers in that area to come join us for half a day. And we talk about everything from the latest trends in HR to our perspective on how HR organizations can be successful, the role of technology, the role of sort of information services, and just really sort of a vision and a perspective on the path that we see HR teams taking.
Right. Well, what I wanted to talk about a little bit today is some of those very topics. Before I do that, I want to point out, if you're on Twitter or on LinkedIn, you should have just seen, I tweeted out, Jeff and I are actually going to be doing a webinar on Friday with Steve Bowes, and wanted to kind of talk about that and invite everyone to do that. It's called How to Build Your Employee Experience Roadmap. That's Friday the 14th, this Friday from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. So the link is out there.
Yep.
But specifically, you talked about some of these things today. So even though it's a road show, this really isn't about sort of a sales pitch to your customers at all, right? This is really about educating HR professionals. And so I'm impressed that you all do so much. Could you talk a little bit about some of the things? Obviously, we can't go into everything that you covered, but maybe just some of those things that HR leaders, as they're going through a business transformation, might be struggling with and grappling with, and what your thoughts are around that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. And, I think you're absolutely right. This is not meant to be a sales pitch. Our role, as an organization, our role is to work with HR professionals to help them take the next logical step in improving what they do and in delivering their on the sort of the promise of HR and getting to the challenges of the sort of day to day. So we talk a lot about what that looks like. We like to really frame that up by talking about the sort of the significant challenges that we see HR organizations dealing with, especially in the areas of, I have a lot of conversations and they tend to revolve around help me find good people, bring them on board, get them engaged and motivated and get them to stay. And also the other big challenge, of course, is, and every HR professional knows this, is just the sort of the day-to-day challenge of getting through the workload, the relentless sort of tide of questions and the sort of the mechanics of managing people can be utterly consuming. And so what we see is, our perspective really from talking to HR teams and professionals that are feeling like they're sort of staying on top of this is really, they tend to see themselves as being really a sort of a lot more data-driven, a lot more strategic, capable of sort of being responsive rather than reactive, and ultimately doing those things in service of engaging employees and helping them be productive, and stay engaged.
Yeah, I think, we were talking earlier about these are some problems that HR leaders have had for forever, right? Probably for since the beginning of time as people were working. But when you think about even maybe 10 years ago, when I was working at HR, we didn't have analytics and tools at our fingertips, certainly to what we have now, so that people could be able to get questions answered really quickly, that they could maybe focus on some of those other challenges you were talking about. Could you talk a little bit about the role of HR analytics and how you see that helping the HR professionals that might be listening?
Yeah, absolutely. We run studies and surveys regularly of HR leaders, and we see that things like analytics is right up there at the top of areas that they have a lot of interest in just understanding more, investing more in, and really deploying. I think what's happened is a couple of things have really fueled the changes that we see. Obviously, one of them is just this drive to deliver a better employee experience overall. You have to do that if you want to maintain and retain people. To do that, you have to understand what matters to them. which means that you have to look past just the sort of the day-to-day productivity metrics and really look at what is actually common to high performers in my business that are staying. How do I ensure that we're doing the right things to engage them and keep them? I think the other thing that then has happened is in response to that and parallel to that, that growing pressure to better understand, there's a whole range now of tools and technologies that are becoming much more accessible and much more available to HR professionals to enable them to answer those very questions. And we see, it's a combination of sort of analytic tools that are being built into HCM platforms to help me understand the sort of the data that I'm already seeing.
Right.
And then there is the emergence of the inevitable AI and machine learning into the world of HR, which I think is unlocking a whole range of additional possibilities to better understand what's going on in the world of the employee.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was a question that came in while you were speaking. I was kind of tweeting out about what people were thinking about. And you may not have, I'll just caveat, you may not have an answer to this yet, because this is really new.
Right.
But it's something to be thinking about. It's on the minds of certainly all the HR professionals out on Twitter. Are any companies that you're working with, are you seeing them create policies around Chat GPT, this generative AI? Is that something that's starting to come up, or is this so new?
No,
we don't see them doing that yet?
So I think a couple of things going on there. And I would draw the distinction between those kinds of AI tools and the kind I was just referencing. So I think AI tools that are built into platforms that people are already using. In other words, you take something that is your existing technology and you make it capable of learning, you can make it capable of identifying trends. And
right.
That is one set of area where I think AI is becoming both more pervasive, but also more accepted. I think people are getting more and more comfortable with this idea. And, it's kind of like I ask an AI, what's the quickest route to go pick up a pizza? Right? We get comfortable with those kind of things. I think the generative AI, really, that's where you start to see organizations become a little more concerned because, rightly or wrongly, and we do see organizations starting to publish policies around the use of those things, because on a couple of fronts. One is it potentially could be an incredible productivity tool. And I tend to be a proponent of using things like AI because I think there is incredible power there. Right. So I think we shouldn't shy away from evaluating them. However, like anything that's being heavily used suddenly, you have to question, what are the implications of using that extensively in my organization? To what extent does it open up oversharing of information that I might not want to share with a third party? Right. To what extent is it possibly a vector for attack for other people? So again, I want to be really clear. I think there's huge value in generative AI technology overall. I think they will become powerful tools to facilitate greater productivity and creativity. But we're right on the cusp of just starting to understand how to use these things. There are a few that are getting a lot of publicity. Right. And I think businesses are sensibly cautious about how they use those tools and how they're going to open up their networks, their employees, and their information to connect to those tools.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you for explaining the difference, because that comes up often, right? From people that it was sort of like back, when SaaS was new, right?
Right.
SaaS versus cloud, and what are the similarities and how is it different? And so, when you're working in the trenches of human resources, you often hear terms and terminology that you're not sure exactly. Yeah. How does this apply to me? Does it apply to my business currently? Is it built in my platform? Right. Is it not in the platform? One last thing, this will be maybe a little bit of a surprise, but you, one of the things that was shared today was a lot about how philanthropy can sort of be built into the way that you're using your platform. So could you maybe share with people, because that was a little bit of a surprise to me. I didn't realize there was that connection there. Yeah. And so if you'd maybe tell everyone and share what you're doing in terms of philanthropy with different organizations.
Yeah, of course. So, I think there's a few things that I would say around that. One is we've seen and we've talked about this, we've seen a real sort of reevaluation by businesses on the value of allowing people to bring their whole self to the office, right? That we're no longer seeing employees as somehow some sort of fungible resource that you can swap in and out, and it really doesn't matter who it is. As long as they know how to push the button and pull the lever, they're good, right? Now we see businesses going, actually, wait, there's value in the full person. There's value in diversity. There's value in a range of, every aspect of the human condition, because you bring things and perspectives and creativity and capacity and energy that is new. So that's one side. So as part of that, what we see organizations thinking about is, well, there are things that really matter to my employees. So if I want to enable someone to bring their full self to the business, and I want to enable them to feel really connected, that we care about them as a person, then you start to see businesses saying, well, let's start to make it easy for someone to connect with the causes they really care about. Right. So you see that capacity to say, well, I'm deeply passionate about this topic, this area, this nonprofit, whatever it happens to be. Let me, through my workplace, connect to other individuals in the workplace that also feel the same way. Enable me to more easily not only just make sort of financial contributions, but actually time and expertise, and connect with those things that actually, organizations that could use the skills that I have.
Right.
And I think it's sort of a case of enlightened self-interest from the perspective of the business too, because you think a lot of the organizations we deal with are very firmly rooted in their communities as a business. They've been around for a long time. They're part of the community itself. And so enabling them to have their employees connect more easily to local nonprofits, local causes that really matter, helps them further cement their roots into that community that supports them as a business. So I think it's really, and of course, from a community point of view and from a nonprofit point of view, it's great. You certainly have access. One of the things that we do is we connect employers with, I think, well over 2 million nonprofits around the US, which makes it easy for someone to, basically take a deduction from their pay and automate the whole process, or give up time. Whatever it is, there's value on every side for doing that. And I think that's a great thing. I think it's a wonderful trend that we should be encouraging.
Yeah. I was surprised. I didn't realize there was that connection there. And it was, when I saw it in the demo, it was so easy. And I love the idea of giving time, right? Because that's another thing that the organizations really want and need. I think too, not only does it cement you in the community better, but I think even if you happen to find out that your colleague, who maybe you think you have nothing in common with, maybe you have a common charitable organization you like to support or something, and then maybe you're donating time together, or you're working on something like that together. So also from a skill building perspective, depending on what you're donating time to, it could actually help you within your own job and your organization.
Absolutely.
So it's like a win-win-win.
Yeah, right? There really is no downside to it, which is wonderful. Just the challenge is make it easy for people, which is something we've been focused on. How do you make it easy to enable someone to bring their whole self? How do you make it easy to connect with them, and then make it easy for the employer too? There are sometimes challenges around, well, what are the tax implications? How do I manage this? If you take away those barriers, and you certainly can, that's part of the job, suddenly the world opens up to an awful lot of, as you say, all of these benefits that then accrue as a result of that engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, good. Well, listen, everyone, we want to remind you again, if you're just joining or joining late, we are going to be doing a webinar together on Friday with Steve Bowes, who is back at HQ right now, kind of working busily. So shout out to Steve Bowes.
Hey, Steve.
We will be talking about how to build your employee experience roadmap. That's Friday, April 14th. I did tweet out the link. We'll be sharing that all through the next couple of days. So please get registered for that. It's a good way to train yourself. A lot of times we talked here today to some customers who are saying, that this is maybe sometimes the only training they get.
It's
right?
True.
Companies aren't typically investing a ton in training their HR professionals.
Right.
So for yourself, do this for yourself. Give yourself some free training. Get to hang out with Geoff a little bit more and hear even more details. And really, the last thing I'll say is that you all do a nice job of research around what employers are really wanting, what HR professionals are wanting, and what employees are wanting. So there's going to be a lot shared with regard to specific data that you as the audience member will be able to take back to your organization, to your C-suite, and maybe help make a business case. Because I don't know about everyone else, but when I was working in HR, that was what we didn't have a lot of. I could Google data, but it wasn't always accurate. So it was a long time ago. But anyway, so thank you for joining me today. Thank you for having me here on the iSolve Roadshow. And we'll catch you all here on Friday. Bye for now.
Take care.